Hi guys, I'm Beck. I'm here to make science, technology, engineering, and math simple and exciting for young women like you. Today we have a really exciting interview with Lenka and Jody, who are both Agile and leadership specialists. They've had super interesting lives. Lenka grew up in communist Czechoslovakia. She went to university over there, and then her life has evolved, and she has worked at companies like McKinsey, Combank, and now Telstra Purple. And Jodie similarly has had a fascinating life. She grew up in the United States and then is now in Australia. She's worked at Combank, Intuit, and The Iconic. So already you can tell these women have some crazy good organizations behind them. And I'm excited for you to learn more about them in this interview. You'll hear about how they chose what to study at university, what they studied at university, how they found work experience opportunities, and what exactly does it mean to be an Agile specialist. I think you'll really enjoy this interview. Enjoy. Let's go back to the beginning. Let's get into business.
Okay, hold on. Let me make myself pretty.
My work is done. So what did you want to do when you were growing up? Were you always like, I'm going to be Agile champion of the world?
Yeah, that's it. That's always what I want to do. Not at all. Had no idea. But I was always very clear until the age of about 16, when I totally was like, what am I going to do? But beforehand, I was always very clear. I wanted to be either a vet or a doctor or an astronaut. Like either or would do. Doctor, vet, or astronaut. They kind of really different roles. But actually, I realized that they really talk to my values that I've always had since I was a kiddie, and that it was helping people or helping things around me and nurturing and caring. So it's Dr. Vet, and or explore the world. I always loved finding out how the world works. So astronaut.
I always was interested in business, absolutely. Yeah, it always was exciting to me. I like change. I like creating. I like entrepreneurial things. I don't like doing something that's been done before. I like teams. I think that was another thing, is I like a team environment. And I felt like in business, you work with a team to get something done. I always had this vision that I was going to be like a career woman, and I was going to have a family, and I was going to do both because I wanted to do both. So I studied accounting in high school. So I had kind of a leg up in accounting, and I was good at it because I was good at maths and I was good at numbers. So, I could do it. And honestly, I didn't know which one I was going to choose because I liked them all. And when I had to choose, my friend Maria, I said, Maria, what did you choose? And she said, I chose accounting. And I'm like, well, why? And she gave me her arguments, and I'm like, I'm sold. Yeah, I'm doing accounting too.
Then you went to university, had what looks like a fairly varied degree, psychoeconomics, foreign languages.
Yeah.
Why did you choose that? Did you do that deliberately from the outset, or did it change as you went through uni?
Yeah, I both did it deliberately and didn't. So at the beginning, I didn't. I was thrusted into the direction because when I finished grammar school, my plan was to go into law, just because loads of my friends did. And I'm so glad I didn't. How boring would that be?
Now the time to say, remember my boyfriend's a lawyer?
Yep, I totally know. How boring is it? So yeah, I was not accepted to 3 universities. So I applied, and yes, there's a really hard entrance exams, but I was not good enough. They totally miserably failed. And I was like, okay, well, I know I want to go to university, but clearly law, not good enough for it. And so I had to wait another year for the next round of applications for uni. So I made a decision that I would find a job, study every single day, and then apply to the best university in Czech Republic, because if you're studying uni, you might as well to go to the best place available to you. So I did exactly that, found a great job, that then happened to form my kind of next career steps. And then in a year's time, after literally studying every single day for entrance exams, I passed the exam and then became full-time student. And by then I had saved enough money from the job to put myself through the uni. So it was way easier, but I did work every single day throughout the university. Right. So anyway, the back to your original question, it was a rant. Uh, why that degree? I felt that it gives me a good platform of deciding after 3 years where to properly profile myself. So the degree was economics, psychology, um, foreign languages, and few other kind of typical humanity sciences kind of fields. I felt that at the age of 21, 22, I was not mature enough to make a decision about what exactly do I want to be when I grow up. I was nowhere close to growing up. So the humanity sciences really helped me postpone the decision.
That's what I did with my degree as well. I didn't like, and I always say to people, you know, if you go to your parents at the age of 21 and say, I know who I want to marry, we're going to get married next month, your parents would say you're too young to make a decision that will impact the rest of your life. But that's what you have to do at university. And so I also chose the degree that just gave me more options rather than pigeonholed me.
Yeah.
It just makes sense.
What did you study? What did you study? What was your choice?
Business and psychology.
Perfect. So that, yeah, very similar. Yeah, very similar degree. Yeah.
How did you handle getting rejected 3 times? Like, were you devastated? Were you like, nah, law's not for me then? Or were you like, I'm going to run at this? How did that feel?
Crushing. Far out. I had a major rethink of who I am back then. Because until that point, I was grade A student and everything, and I didn't really have to do like make that much efforts. Grammar school, as prestigious as it was kind of easy.
Okay.
And so I was used to always the best results. And then, of course, I apply. And I remember still the feeling, sitting those entrance exams, going through the questions, I was like, no idea, never heard of this. What does this even mean? It was a major reality check for me. And a crushing, humbling, really good experience. But I knew what my goal was, and after there was no changing of my goal. I had to be successful. I had to get kind of out of the family cycle of not poverty, but not having the choice, not being able to self-realize through education, and not having the freedom of deciding what you're going to do with your life. Because of course, coming from Czech Republic, who back then was a communistic country, my parents, despite being very intelligent people, they had not the choice to go and study. They were literally told they are not allowed to go to university. They have to go to certain job.
Did you keep working because you enjoyed the money? Did you get work experience in more professional spaces? Like, how did you fill your time?
I had various jobs, from teaching English into one-on-one tutorials to group tutorials to literally anything from supermarkets to sales, for call centers, customer service in hospitality, which is basically waitressing.
Yeah.
In the city center.
It sounds so glamorous though. Customer service and hospitality versus the waitress.
Absolutely, but it's like totally spot on. Again, it teaches you very early on that everything depends on how you frame it.
Yes.
And you know, again, it's very non-glamorous at the same time. Did it help me achieve my goal by not impacting my studies, because I do it in the evening or night, and getting lots of money for it? Yes. And funny enough, being in metropolitan city in Prague, in the city center, it would be mostly tourists. So I could practice English and German and other foreign languages right there in real time. So it actually, again, another early lesson, things often depend on how you perceive them. And I perceived waitressing for like a few months as the best thing that could have happened to me. Because where else could I hear the all possible crazy English accents? Not in the classroom, that's for sure, but definitely in the bar. So, hey, you take what you can towards your goal.
So uni was awesome. And I didn't do a lot of work experience because I needed to make money because I was funding my own education. And in the US, it's expensive to go to university. Um, so I did like waitressing, like I was just whatever I could make the most money at. I got a job with KPMG as an auditor. And I liked that. Like it was always changing and I was always learning. But then I got to the point where after a few years, I just looked at what it was all about and I wasn't really doing it for me. It wasn't enough. I wasn't feeding my creative side, my people focus. And so then I transferred into management consulting. And that was much more interesting and much more exciting. And that's when I found all sorts of things. So, you know, process reengineering and helping companies transform. And that's when I started to move into sort of how to help organizations operate effectively and doing that through working with people and bringing out the best in people.
Tell us about the work that you do now. How would you explain it?
Oh, where to start? So it's called a squad lead, and it's a digital consultancy, part of Telstra Purple. We have cross-functional skill set from design, data development, and we help companies from enterprise to small businesses, including government, to improve their inner processes, increase their revenues, decrease their cost, mostly via technologies. But also we work with them and help them through strategic design to understand what exact problems they are facing, how to frame those problems, how to then split those problems into something smaller and address those problems. And if it's via technology, awesome. If it's not via technology, awesome too, as long as we can help them to address those problems. So we do funky things, such as cross reality and IoT, Internet of Things, and machine learning, and these kind of funky stuff. But we do also more traditional web development, mostly using Microsoft technologies. And we have a really awesome bunch of people.
So what I do is I help organizations to operate effectively and, you know, creating environments where people can do the best work of their lives and teams can do the best work of their lives. Pretty much all the time it's experimenting. So you're working with a complex problem. So there's no book you can look on page 138 for the solution. So it's like, we think this is what's happening, the root cause. Let's try these things and see if we can move the needle a bit. And then checking back, you know, on how we're going. So the variety of the kinds of problems I help solve is broad, and that makes it interesting and exciting.
When you pitch it like that, it's like you'd never be bored. Like
Never.
Yeah.
Yeah. And often sometimes a bit scared because people will come to me and they'll say, this is a problem and, you know, you need to help us solve it. And sometimes my first reaction is, oh my gosh, how am I going to solve that problem? You know? And then I'm like, nah, just gotta do your best and get in there and, you know, start pulling this apart and we'll figure out how we're going to untangle this.
Knowing what you know now, do you wish you'd studied anything different?
I would have probably profiled myself more in artificial intelligence and robotics and something more techy than what I did. do I wish I had the magical skills of creating something from scratch with technology? Yes, I do. And I see you probably wish the same.
I'm exactly the same. I'm thankful that I'm in the tech space, but I wish I was more in the tech space because, like, especially the way the world is now,
Mm.
tech is the only industry where salaries are like guaranteed and even still growing.
Mm.
And so, thank God I'm in this space, but I wish I'd also maybe kind of explored more technical technology.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
My 20-year-old self, I would say try as many things as you can to see if you like them. I would say don't be afraid to take risks because that's the time to do it. And when you find your passion, you won't have to wonder if you found it because you'll just know. It's kind of like when you fall in love. It's like, yeah, I'm in love, you know. And if you're questioning it, it's probably not your passion. And yeah, keep looking. The other thing I would tell my 20-year-old self is I got a lot out of doing Strengths Finder, which is an exercise you can do online. I think it's like $15, and you can. There's a book that goes with it called Now Discover Your Strengths. But there's like 25 strengths, and and there's science behind all this. But every human usually narrows it down to like one core strength and 4 sub strengths. And basically what the book says, and I believe in this, is you want to find opportunities that are going to draw on your natural strengths. It's not to say that you can't learn things, but if you learn things that are aligned with your strengths, you're going to be in a really positive learning environment versus when you try to learn something that's not aligned to your strengths, it's always going to be a bit of a struggle. It's not to say that you can't, and you'll never get to strong. You'll probably only get to neutral. And sometimes that's necessary because you need certain skills, even if it's just a baseline skill. But yeah, to play to your strengths. I think if I had that knowledge, it would have helped guide me more.
What advice would you give your 20-year-old self?
I'm reflecting what I was like at 20. I think I was very unaware.
Yeah.
And I was very, very driven towards my goal. And I do think that often it actually, on one hand, it would propel me, on the other hand, it would hinder me. I feel retrospectively I should have had more empathy and be more human rather than like this one.
What did you start doing in university that you're glad you still do today?
Made really good friends and created like supportive networks around me.
What did you start doing at university that you're glad you still do today?
I started being more critical, targeted, and brutal with who I spend my time with. So at uni, I painfully realized that because I had to work, I had to study, and studies back then, especially in Czech Republic, was 40, 50 hours a week. It wasn't like, oh, I go to a couple of subjects every day. No, it's like from morning till evening, and then I had to work. So I found that my social interactions very much lacked. But then I realized that actually the very little time that I have to maintain and create friendships, I need to invest into the real quality ones that I can grow from and they can grow from, and there's a harmony in our mindsets. So, and that's something that I continue doing.
You stopped doing at uni that you wish you'd continued?
Keep learning foreign languages. So at uni, because hey, I had access to all curriculums from the whole university, not just from the faculty that I attended, but literally every single faculty at Charles University, which was like being a kid in the candy shop. And they were, at one point, I was studying 7 different foreign languages at the same time. Stupid, but I just loved it. And I do find foreign languages being a window into how people think. There's definitely something in linguistics that the way you use language forms your thinking. And that's why there are these national stereotypes. German is very structured, and the nation comes across as kind of very structured. And English, very liberal language, and the nation has very liberal values. So I do find that understanding the language people speak as their first language actually gives you a beautiful insight into how their mind works.
What sparked your interest in technology and engineering businesses?
Yeah, I love tech. I love the culture in tech companies. I love the type of people it attracts. You know, people who want to try things, people who want to be a part of strong teams, and I also love like the possibilities of what you can create and what you do create. It's just, yeah, it's, and how quickly you can do things, and it's just a really exciting place to be.
Yeah, I agree. It feels like it's a different feeling being in a company that is like engineering led. It feels it's a different energy, and it's a less judgmental focus versus being in a business that's more businessy. I feel like you get more ego, more self-importance, whereas the tech companies, they're more like, let's just try things, and if things go wrong, like zero blame, you just figure it out.
Yeah, there's a humbleness. I agree. And even at the executive level, and I think, and you're making me reflect on it, I think it might come from that engineering mindset, because in engineering, like there's always new ways to do things. So it's like you never know it all. And if you assumed you did, people would just look at you like, excuse me, have you heard of open source? Like, it's changing every day, you know? And so, yeah, and that safe to fail, and that we're in this together. Yeah, I love that. I love it.
What sparked your interest in technology? When did that happen?
I grew up with technology. So my brother was a nerd. He still is, and I love him absolutely dearly. So because we grew up in the same room, we did not have much money, of course, back in communistic Czechoslovakia. I always saw how he tinkers around with technology, because I was 3 years older. So I saw the first computer, Didactic M, called back then, and I could see how brother programs on the huge slow machine, and he would teach me a few things, like you write this script that is as long as bloody arm, and this dot on the screen moves 2 centimeters right. Yeah.
Whoa!
Right, take that.
What area of your work would you say is hot right now?
Robotics and machine learning, data. So suddenly everyone has these data sources, but no one really can make their head around it. So how do we help humans who perceive the world in a certain way to make some sense out of all the data that they have available? So that is suddenly design comes in, and strategic design, and design-led thinking to help the customers make their head around their data, and then visualization of the data to be able to absorb it.
We're going to be past COVID at some point. We will. And that's going to create a whole new dynamic for how we operate, because we have figured out that remote works, but we also know as humans we want to be together. So I predict there's going to be what's going to be hot, and is starting to be hot, is like, how do we team in that environment? How do we work effectively when it's hybrid, when some of us are in the office and some aren't? When do we get together? What does that look like?
What field would you recommend that young women consider going into?
I would go into technology combined with psychology, because I do feel with as much empathy as we put on technology, we're still creating technology for humans.
Yeah.
And therefore we fundamentally have to understand each other. Therefore we fundamentally have to know how we operate and what makes us tick. So there's the psychology part, and if we combine it with understanding how technology operates and how technology can make our life more enjoyable, then that's very powerful.
What field do you recommend young women consider going into?
Well, I think you should go into the fields that interest you most. And I don't think you should let anything stop you from doing that, because I truly believe that it's getting easier and easier to make a job work for whatever lifestyle you want to lead. And so, yeah, I would say follow your passions. And I think personally, I think tech, I think design, engineering, all those kinds of data science, all those kinds of fields, super interesting.
I agree. You're going to work in the right kinds of companies. You're in a field where like they're the only fields where salaries are increasing, and you'll never be bored.
Right? No, and you don't do the same things over and over, and yeah, you're not bored. You're always growing.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you again, Jody. I really appreciate your time. I'll speak to you soon.
All right. Bye, Beck.
See ya.